Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, Club and Country, driven by Continental Tire from Kansas City. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, a new face, a familiar face, a face we wish he had more often, but he's a busy man, Maurice. By the way, we've got Jon Arnold coming up, and Zack Steffen. So this is a great episode to tune in for, a bonus pod on Extra Time. This is a big summer, Mo. For the team, for you, for everybody, man. Welcome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It took you guys long enough to get me back on here, man. I've been having some FOMO watching the different episodes and just waiting for my chance to get back up here and chat with you guys. So,
bro, we're waiting for Atlanta United to be relevant because now you're the ETL guy all of a sudden.
Yeah, bro, it's been a whirlwind this last month, I would say, just traveling back and forth, but it's been fun, seeing how their stadium's been reopened and the fans, and 20,000 the first game that I did, now 40,000. It was crazy, right? You guys you've seen the madness that happens in Atlanta, and so it's been fun to be a part of that. And to your point, yeah, bro, I just been grinding.
Well, Mo, I just want to say that as manager here, and as Gregg Berhalter said about Daryl Dike, this is a form thing. It hurts me not to have you on every single show, but sometimes you got to make tough decisions, and I know you're in form right now, man, because I just want to say congratulations to you. College graduate Mo Adu got it done. I hear, my sources tell me, a straight A student. That's incredible.
This last go around, straight A's, and it's funny because you do all the hard work, and then that last week or two comes, and it's like, do I really want to keep doing this? But you've done the dirty part, so it's like, you know what, just finish up strong, and I'm happy that through this crazy COVID situation we've been in, that's been one of the positive moments that I've taken from that. I was able to fulfill a promise I made to my mom. I also value my education, coming from a family where both my parents were teachers. So it was good to kind of tick that box. And going forward, when I'm telling my son, hey, stay in school, you got to finish your degree. The education's important. I have that as in my back pocket now to show him as well.
What was your major?
Business management.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Back pocket.
I know there's a lot of math in the family, so I wanted to make sure it was something respectable.
Yeah, it had to be. My mom she wouldn't accept anything less than that.
No communications degrees over there.
Hey, let's not talk badly about journalism or communication degrees, all right? Some of us didn't make our parents proud in that way. It's a huge summer, year and a half, honestly, in international soccer. We're building up to the World Cup. The U.S. has to qualify for the World Cup. The U.S. has Nations League semifinals, and we hope a final coming up very, very soon. Of course, the Gold Cup following after that. Just to give you a rundown of the schedule before we get going, we're going to talk through a lot of things. We're going to talk about, well, for one, Clint Dempsey in studio. I got to get Mo's opinion on that one, as well as this roster, 23-man that Gregg Berhalter put out for the Nations League, and then the Gold Cup after that. But the schedule goes something like this. Switzerland this Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Unimas Turien. Nations League semi against Honduras. This is at Mile High in Denver. Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern that following week, Paramount Plus, Univision Turien. Then you have a third place or a final game, either Mexico or Costa Rica on the Sunday. And then right back June 9th, Costa Rica, a friendly, 7 Eastern in Sandy, Utah on ESPN2, Unimas, and Turien. Of course, all the coverage, MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. And then on July 11th, the Gold Cup kicks off. All the games right here in Kansas City. That works out pretty well for me. Let's dive right into it. Of course, we have Zack Steffen coming up in a little bit to talk Man City and the national team. Jon Arnold's going to help us take a look at Honduras, Costa Rica, and Mexico. I mentioned it. It's what we've all dreamed of, what we thought may never happen, Mo. Clint Dempsey in studio. You're part of this incredible broadcast team, but no offense to you, man. We all know when Deuce is on the television, he is going to get front billing. I mean, this is incredible. This is like a dream come true.
No, and as he should. I hold nothing. Look, I love that he's part of the crew. I think he's gonna do really well. Knowing Clint, and I think this is a great opportunity for him to. Fans love Clint. They love Clint for his antics on the pitch, the way he plays, his personality, and now I think they're gonna get to see an even deeper glimpse into who this man is. Because from being a teammate, being a friend, we've all had that glimpse. We love him for who he is, and I think he's going to be a personality that really endures to the fans. They're going to he's just a real person, right? And you're going to get to see that transparency. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. I think it's going to be educational as well. But I think they've assembled a really dope cast of people, man. The people that I've played with, former teammates, good friends still to this day. And so I'm excited.
Do you think that he brings his own fish, or is he just going to eat the fish that's provided?
Probably a little bit of both. He's got to do it his own way.
For sure.
It's going to be Kate Abdo, Clint, and then Charlie Davies, who we all love and know well from basically everything as well, and then Gooch in studio. That's an all-star squad. You can see the full collection of folks, all the coverage is out there. It is a really cool, diverse, awesome group of people, different perspectives, expertise, experience with the national team. Let's just jump in. The 23-man roster is out. The big news, let's say, in MLS terms and maybe otherwise, is that Daryl Dike is not a part of the 23, though he will play against Switzerland and then be with the team, Gregg Berhalter says, to kind of, to vibe during the Nations League and to see how it goes, and I assume play against Costa Rica on the back end. What was your first impression, Mo, from this 23-man roster? What were the things that just immediately you're like, oh, this name's here, he's here, I'm excited for this? What stands out?
I mean, Dike, of course, right? Like what he did in such a short amount of time, even before he eventually went to England, like the trajectory that he's on right now, how fast he's just flown through the ranks, it feels like, and really taken his name from being one that was whispered about in Orlando to now one that's being shouted about across Europe, right? I think it's incredible. U.S. soccer fans are really excited to see him now get a chance with the national team. So, of course, I think that's the first thing that stood out to me because I wanted to see him playing for a national team. I wanted to see him playing in competitive games that have meaning, games where there's a trophy on the line. But it's not to be. He'll play in the friendly, and then I'm sure he'll be playing in the Gold Cup starting there, so we'll get a chance to see him there. The other ones that kind of stood out to me, of course, Aaron Long getting the injury, I think is a blow, a massive blow. He's been a player who's done well. Actually, he's done really well in his time with the national team, and he's featured consistently. So you were starting to see a little bit of a pairing growing there between him and John Brooks. But at the same time, what that does is it gives opportunity. I think center back is actually a position there's a decent amount of depth on this team. Chris Richards is out, of course, with an injury as well, but Mark McKenzie, a guy that I know from Philly, gets a chance that I'm sure, if I'm choosing the team, is probably the one that I would start next to Jonathan Brooks. So I think those are the ones that initially catch your attention and make you go, okay, what's going to happen here now, right?
So let me ask you, because we've heard with Dike, it was about form and maybe a little bit about fit, and you said it. There's an idea that Dike will be available for the Gold Cup. Doesn't feel like Sargent and Subachu will be, but is there frustration there that it's not him? Like I hear form and I look at a guy who just crushed it in England in a really short time, and that feels like good form to me for him to make this team.
Yeah, like I said, he's really one player that I was really, really excited about seeing. I was really excited to see him get even more minutes in the last couple of friendlies that they had. I was just happy that he got on the pitch at that point, but I thought that he would, at least be on this roster and feature a decent amount. If I was picking my 11, I think I might have him as my 9 at this point in time. And that's no disrespect to Siebichu or to Josh Sargent. But I think I still look at him and say he's going to be a massive part of this team going forward. And I was just eager to see him be a part of this team ASAP, right? I think, okay, maybe there's a little bit of drop off and he didn't score as many goals in the last few games of the season. But what he did up until that point, and you got to factor in as well, he's gone from one season in MLS and then gone into another season overseas. And so I still would have had him a part of that team, give him a chance in training to earn a starting spot and go from there. But we'll take what we can. We'll see him in the friendly, I'm sure, against Switzerland. That'll keep the fans excited and wanting more. And that's the opportunity again now for Josh Sargent or for Siebichu to really try to make that position their own. Because at this point, I feel like the number 9, I think we all kind of feel like the number 9 is still the one area that's penciled in. Other positions have been inked in, and that's still the one that there's still quite a bit of opportunity for players to show themselves and earn that spot.
It's up for grabs, but I think the nice thing is that the conversation has sort of evolved from who could it possibly be? XYZ are not playing at this level or their form isn't good enough to Greg saying, look, Siebichu just helped his team win the Swiss League. He scored a bunch of goals. We love his movement. We think his ability to find open space and influence the game with the way he moves and then finish at the end of it is incredible. Okay, you got a guy scoring in the first division doing his thing. Okay, Josh Sargent didn't get the goals we wanted, but he has all these minutes and his future is a little TBD because of what happened to Werder. But all of a sudden there's this list. Whereas before it was kind of like, man, I hope Josie gets back. I hope he's back in form. I hope he's hungry for it again. And that's a luxury for us all. I just want to take it back one step right now because we're talking about Gold Cup versus Nations League and these friendlies and how Greg is balancing this evolving, growing sort of roster and depth chart. And we had a question here, which is why are certain competitions being favored over others? I've heard about the quote B team being sent to Gold Cup while first choice go to Nations League, but I don't know enough about why those groups are going to each specific competition. And I think we should probably address that. before we really dig into the roster and talk about the decisions that Gregg is making, because that is the lens through which he is seeing everything. There are these different things to juggle. There is World Cup qualifying coming. He hasn't had the full group together in a real meaningful sense. So, Dave, I know we talked through this, but if you want to just sort of break that down for folks, go ahead.
Yeah, so World Cup qualifying starts this fall in September. Gregg Berhalter's never had his A-team play a competitive soccer game together, ever. So this was a decision that he had to make coming into this year. And the way it netted out was, with the way World Cup qualifying is going to be this year, because of COVID, you have to add in a third game to the window. This is the closest he can come, this Nations League, into a friendly trip to replicating a World Cup qualifying window. And so what he's going to do is get his team together in Europe, play in Europe as if they're playing a club game on a weekend in Europe. Then they're going to travel together to the U.S. and have 3 games in a short time span. The idea is then in that short time span, you're probably going to have to rotate your team quite a lot. So this is the closest they can get to replicating the most important thing to this team, which is qualifying for the World Cup, not winning a Gold Cup, not a Concacaf Nations League final. The number one thing for the U.S. men's national team right now is qualifying for 2022. This gets them closer, on top of the fact that with COVID, a lot of these players have played a copious amounts of games over the last year and will again in the next seasons. So you don't want to pull players into a Gold Cup for 5 to 6 weeks if you don't have to, and you can give them a layoff. So this was the best way to kind of break it all down, to give these players the rest they need, but also get an opportunity to see your best group for one time and get an idea of what this is going to feel like. We've never had a 3-window World Cup qualifying cycle. It's always been 2, where you could kind of play the same team or bring 2 teams in. Now is going to be a whole new situation. And so this is a pretty good chance to practice it.
You've done this, Mo. You've come from Europe. You've gone into World Cup qualifying. You felt those stakes and had to prepare for that. When we talk about this sort of dry run, like as a player, are you like, yeah, that makes sense, I'm going to be able to really figure this out? Or do you think this is more for the coaches to better understand?
A little bit of both. You know, the players are going to adapt. They're going to find ways to adapt. And I think when you know what's at stake, you mentally have yourself prepared. And then it's about just doing the things beforehand to make sure that you're physically ready. And that's recovery in between games, doing all the things, the right things that you know are going to have you prepared. I think some of these players will have had to play similar, games in quick succession with their club team, whether it's cup games midweek and then another game on the weekend, and just having to figure that out. So from that standpoint, I think, of course, the players will benefit from adapting to that and experiencing that, but I think the coaches as well, because you're going to learn a lot about your players. You're going to learn a lot about the logistics that go behind, that govern all the kind of that travel and the requirements per game. And ultimately, as Gus was alluding to there as well, it's going to be a long summer, and you're going to see a lot of players rotated through the different tournaments. And by World Cup qualifying, we will have seen the A-team during Concacaf Nations League. Gold Cup, we'll get to see probably some players who might feature into that A-team as well as some new young players that'll probably get introduced into this fold, and some guys who are on the cusp, waiting for that opportunity. This could be their moment to now say, I need to ascend into the first team rotation. So this is a difficult situation to navigate, right? And so I think they're just trying to figure out what makes the most sense and trying to prioritize things in that way. With the ultimate vision, the ultimate goal for all of us, we all agreed World Cup qualifying is the most important thing. So getting your first team together and getting them some meaningful minutes in a competition with a trophy at stake, and then using a Gold Cup, you're still going to be competing for a trophy. So there's meaningful minutes there as well, where you can introduce and test the depth of your actual squad, hoping that you'll have your 15, 16, 17 that are maybe inked in with a few opportunities for guys to impress and still some positions for World Cup qualifying.
So we're all Daryl Dike stands. Let's go try to nail this thing down up top. If it's not Daryl Dike, who's it going to be for you, Mo? Who do you think best fits? Who do you think Gregg looks at and says, yeah, Honduras, when I put my lineup out, you're probably the one?
I think all signs at this point, if I'm Gregg, I think he's probably leaning towards Josh Sargent. He's probably seen him a little bit more. And a part of that is maybe a comfort, that he knows him a little bit more and he knows how he fits into this team a little bit better. But in the same breath, that maybe is also, you can also look at that and say, well, he's also had more opportunities to show himself and hasn't really nailed down that position just yet. But with a trophy on the line, I think you're going to go with who you feel the most comfortable with. It's an opportunity for you to, hopefully we'll be playing against Mexico in the final, right? And I think we all want that. We all want that to continue to measure ourselves and try to prove ourselves to be the best in this region. So a game against Mexico in the final, let's take it a step back. Sorry. Honduras is first, right? we're naive if we keep looking past opponents, right? So Honduras is the first opponent, and so you go into that match with the focus of this is win or go home. It's a win or go home situation. It's a tournament, which we all love. So he's going to go with the team that he feels the most comfortable with, and I think in that situation it's probably going to be Josh Sargent leading the line.
And obviously one of the things we've all talked about with Sargent is the goals haven't been there. The minutes have. Bremen don't play the same way we're going to play. But when you look at this group, and I know we've talked about this a million times, but then the names come out on a list. The goal scoring you're going to have from a Pulisic, maybe Gio Reyna, maybe Brendan Aronson. We know what Weston McKennie can do crashing into the box. Yunus Musa as well. I think it's okay for Josh Sargent to be a possession player, to make all of those players more dangerous and their lives easier. I don't think you go into a group like this and say, Josh Sargent has to score 3 goals for us to win this competition or for us to make the final. And so I think he fits this group really well, on top of the fact, Mo, you mentioned it, he knows these guys. He's played with them. They've won at a youth level. They've won in Concacaf before. And so I think you still want to try and ride that connection if you can for a little bit. And so it makes sense that he's getting the opportunity, even if I wanted to be Daryl Dike.
But here's the flip side. This is it, right? Like, this is Sargent's chance to prove it and hold it, right? Like, if he scores goals and he sets his teammates up and he performs and he has sort of the defensive duties there as well, because we know that Gregg values that, and it's going to be important, especially when you get into games like against Mexico where you don't have the ball all the time. Like, this is it. There's no more. I feel like we're at a point where there's no more like, okay, well, you got time to earn it. Okay, we'll figure it out. Like, no, the urgency is now. Who can step up and meet the urgency? If he can hold on to it. If he can't, then Sibachu is going to have an opportunity. Then Daryl Dike is going to have an opportunity. And that's what we all wanted from this situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great problem to have, right? You want to have depth at every position. You want to have competition at every position. So I think Josh Sargent is very, very aware of who he is as a player, very aware of what the position demands. Of course, there are different skill sets that can be brought to it. Himself, Sibachu, Daryl Dike, they're not the same players, right? Yeah. They all have different assets, and that's the beauty of that position, of all positions. But within that, there are certain things that are required of you. Yes, gosh, you just talked about him being able to be a player that can bring others into play. And, if that leads to them scoring goals, great. But you're a number 9. You're first and foremost, you're judged on scoring goals. So as well as you play, I think that's still how you're going to be assessed and how you're going to be judged, especially when you're compared to other strikers. If he doesn't score in these 2 games and maybe he plays well and has a couple of assists, and then Daryl Dike goes and scores 7 goals in the Gold Cup, well, there's going to be a lot more questions asked. Like, well, I don't know. What's the bigger asset? Do we need a striker who's just going to provide assists, or do we need a striker who's going to put the ball in the back of the net? And I'm not sitting here saying that I don't think he's capable. I think he's very capable. I saw a lot of him when he was younger, actually. And I mean, the way he dominated that age group, you take it with a grain of salt, of course. But I do think he's matured as a player. And this is a great stage for him now to show us how he's matured and show us that part of his lack of goal scoring is more of the system that he's playing in Bremen. It's a competitive league as well, a difficult league. So he has a great stage in front of him. And I'm excited, man. I'm actually excited that we're having this kind of conversation where it's not inked in, where we don't know who the number 9 is. Although I would love to say that we had one and we're just looking for who's going to be who's going to come off the bench for him. I think it's a pretty intriguing conversation that we find ourselves in right now. And so this is a great platform, a great opportunity for him, because he'll be known as well that Daryl Dike is in camp, first of all, with them right now. And more importantly, during the summer, he's going to get his chance to, we're all hoping, and we would assume he's going to get his chance then to really shine as well.
It's fun having 1 or 2 debates instead of 9, which is what we were doing right. 2 or 3 years ago. Weebs, can we move to positions that are close to Mo's heart? A little center mid.
How many of those are there?
Back?
I mean, yeah.
Whoa, is that a shot or is that a compliment?
I know, right?
Man.
I don't know how to even take that at this point.
Jack of all trades. I got two Mo's looking at me right now, by the way. There's a Mo above that's giving me sort of he's giving me sort of like,
that's
hey,
the better looking one.
The business look like, I can't believe you would say
Mo.
that.
This is center back Mo.
Exactly.
I think that's how we're doing it.
Yeah.
Let's talk center back first, though. Obviously, the Aaron Long injury, you mentioned it. So that's an open spot. That's a spot everyone's competing for. It looks like in this camp, Mark McKenzie and Matt Miazga are going to be the ones given the opportunity. Maybe Tim Ream, that doesn't really seem that likely based off him being left-footed and John Anthony Brooks being on this roster. Break down the battle between McKenzie and Miazga and, the way you see this national team playing. What are you looking for from that other center back to partner Brooks?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm choosing between the two, I think I lean a little bit towards McKenzie. I think McKenzie has shown through his time with Philly, his couple opportunities with the national team, with the full team, now in Europe as well. He's a player whose profile, he's able to pass out the back. He knows when to step. He knows when to be aggressive. And the way that this team wants to play, an aggressive approach where at times the game can get stretched, you need a player who has the speed to put out fires. And I think he has that. You know, when I look at Philly now, that's one of the areas where they're lacking is that actual just raw speed, because they play a similar way where they're sometimes aggressive and they play open, expansive, and that allows for transition moments, counterattacks. And so you need someone who has that sheer speed to just be able to put out fires. But I think that, I think they could form a really good pairing from the profile that Gregg has kind of put out there, what he's looking for. I think McKenzie ticks all the boxes. He's a player who's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He can build out of the back. He can play a long ball. He knows when to step with the ball out of that back four and commit a player to open up the space and opportunities for a midfielder to take the ball or a winger. So I'm excited to see that pairing. I think Chris Richards is another one that we were all kind of looking forward to seeing if he would get that opportunity as well to form a pairing with John Anthony Brooks. Brooks is be the one that obviously is inked in, right? He has that experience. He's been through qualifying. He's been played in the World Cup. So I think you need a player like that within this young group of players who's been there, who's experienced the highs and lows, right? And so you bring that in. You have a young player who's hungry to prove himself. And this is a great opportunity. I think Mark, I would pick Mark right now over Miazga. Miazga's he's had a few chances already where he's had some games where he's really impressed, and then he's had some games where he hasn't. So I think the safer bet for me would be to go with Mark McKenzie.
Flip side is Gregg also said recently here as this roster came out and he was discussing the guys that aren't there, the guys in MLS that might be at the Gold Cup, that Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson are two just locks. They're going to be at the Gold Cup. So then you start talking about this group of players that are vying for this position. We go back to the center forward conversation, and again, good to have two of these and not many more, but all these different profiles. And that's going to be important too as you look into World Cup qualifying. Like there's going to be teams like Honduras that are just like, hey, we're a counterattacking team. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're not going to try to get on the ball against you and dictate play. So what's the right partnership in that situation? Is it somebody who can cover with John Anthony Brooks if he's the one pushing up a little bit and trying to possess and the ball turns over? Against Mexico, you're going to have somebody who's mobile enough to keep up with the movement and the quick passing and have the sort of like head on a swivel and the tactical capability to understand what the hell is going on and deal with it in real time. And experience matters in those situations too. So like I'm excited that over the course of these first couple years with Gregg, it seems to me like he had a system for sort of like whittling down and figuring out what different players' strengths were and what different systems or approaches he was going to have within the system that he was building, where all the principles generally stay the same, but the situations differ. So like I'm excited. I hope it's Mark too. And I think that Mark at Genk, it started rough, right? There were some not so great moments, but it seems like he's solidified that spot, and those are the growing moments that you want from a young center back, to go in, deal with adversity, and say, "No, I'm gonna settle down now," and he has.
And like defending is for me, I've always looked at it as such a different area of the pitch compared to everything else, right? And I think even when you look at a national team back line compared to a club team back line, it's also different. I don't like to change the back line much, right? I want four players who are going to have the chance to grow, and as soon as they've shown a little bit of chemistry, and that's going to come from playing games successively. But once you have that, I fully appreciate having depth and being able to rotate in the right moments. But I want this back four to be identified, to have a chance to grow and build, and regardless of the opponent, right? Because hopefully you're having two center backs who complete each other, whose skill sets match and lend themselves to build off of each other, right? So whether you're playing against Mexico and you have to adapt to their style of play, you're playing against Costa Rica, you're playing against Jamaica, Trinidad, it doesn't matter who you're playing against, because you have two center backs who pair well, who understand each other, who recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses and balance each other out. And of course, that's going to take time. It's going to take games where you have a chance to really grow and learn each other's skill sets and mature together. But I don't like to change the back line. I really don't.
I feel you.
And in club, it's a lot easier.
Health changes things, right? And that's what we were learning really quickly at this point. I love what you said about, and I was like, I saw like the old corny like Valentine, like you complete me, like the two sides of the heart.
I knew Weeby was going to go relationship on that.
For sure. Tell me about, but you said chemistry in the back line. Walk me through from your perspective what that really means, sort of in game, on the training field. How does that come? What does it look like? When do you know, like, yes, we complete each other?
And but no, and this is why in the beginning I said it's a lot easier with club than it is with national team, right? Because with club you're playing games every single weekend, sometimes midweek. You're training together all the time as well, so you have a chance to really build that. The national team is unique because you might play a certain system and stuff with the national team. You go to your club team and it's completely different. So I understand why there's some fluctuation and change there, and why it can change from game to game. But in an ideal situation, yeah, you want to form those communications where you want to establish communication where some of that communication is verbal, some of it is just knowing each other. You start to learn each other's movements. If I'm Mark and Brooks is playing next to me, and I know that a ball is getting played over the top and he's going to be the one who's more aggressive to go and challenge it, cool. I let him challenge it knowing that I need to drop and cover him. How I'm communicating with my outside back, how I'm communicating with Tyler Adams if he's playing the 6 in front of me, knowing that, there's going to be chances where maybe I'm stepping to win the ball or to break a line, or just all those different triangles that exist between yourself, your center back, your 6, yourself, your 6, your right back. All those little triangles have to be established from a communication standpoint, as well as just learning each other's habits. But that's difficult, again, because it's a national team and you're not playing and training consistently together.
Tyler.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned the 6. Fingers crossed. It looks like Tyler might be okay, might be healthy, might be available for this one. If he's not, the roster says it's Jackson Ewell or Kellen Acosta. Do you think, let's just say Tyler isn't fit for a game, or part of this, which is you're going to have to rotate in these 3 games. Is it just plug and play Jackson Ewell, or is there something else you think Gregg Berhalter tries?
I think he was anticipating this, right, with the last couple of friendlies, bringing in Kellen Acosta, playing him at the 6 against Jamaica and Northern Ireland. Jamaica, I thought he played really well, especially a position that doesn't play often with his club team. He plays more of an 8 or even a fullback there. So coming in playing the 6, I thought he looked really, really good against Jamaica. I thought he looked okay against Northern Ireland, but that's to be expected, especially at what point it was in the season for him, and then a position that he's not playing consistently. But to your question directly, who steps in? The way that they play, we've seen Jackson Ewell there already, right? And it's a completely different way than Tyler plays. Tyler's more aggressive, going in, finding the ball, breaking up plays, starting the attack. Jackson Ewell will sit back a little bit more, protect. He doesn't cover as much ground. Maybe his passing range is a little bit better. And then Kellen is that one that's kind of intriguing, because I think he would probably lean a little bit closer to Tyler in his ability to cover ground. But at the same time, I just wonder in those kind of games, because he has the instincts and he has the maturity, he has the ability to get forward, and will he have that discipline? But so if I'm choosing, I might lean towards Jackson Ewell, just because I think, again, from Gregg's standpoint, is someone that he's more comfortable with, someone that he knows. I think that's who Gregg might go with. There's always the option, though, as well, is maybe dropping back Weston and bringing Christian inside, putting another winger up top, and then you're playing a little bit more of an attacking formation. But hey, I don't mind that at all. I don't mind having Christian central and or even Gio central, keeping Christian wide, and then you can bring on maybe a Tim Weah. If you're really trying to go at a team and go for a game, like that's a really attack-minded lineup. And Weston, I think we've seen him play as a 6 before. He's done well in Italy. I think he has the maturity to adapt to that position, although he has the energy to go and cover the whole pitch by himself. It'll just require a little bit more discipline, but I think he's capable of it.
You know what it takes to play defensive midfield at the highest level here. When you look at Tyler Adams, you think about the capabilities he has and the partnerships he can create in that midfield, and we assume it would be him and Musa and Weston McKennie most likely. How does this team change if Tyler Adams is in there and fit?
Tyler's a beast, man. And I've told the story too many times about when I first saw him and what blew me away. But I think Tyler's just a winner, right? And when you have him there, you have that comfort level because, well, you have Musa and you have Weston, who are guys who have engines, can get forward, I think they're both comfortable dribbling with the ball and breaking lines, not only with the pass, but dribbling as well, which I think we need. We didn't have enough of that at the U23 team. And so when you have Tyler there, that gives them more freedom to go and find the game, to go and press higher. That he can cover the ground. He knows when to be aggressive. He knows when to drop back a little bit more and play just in protecting the back four. So I think it just gives you that added bit of, for me as a fan watching it, gives you that added bit of comfort. When he's on the field, I know he's a competitor. He hates to lose, and he's going to leave it all on the pitch every single game. So you get that little bit of an extra bite in the midfield. You get some more edge, and I think it makes your team that much more competitive.
Guys, set your watches. I just want to say, set your watches. Thursday, what is it, June 3rd, 7:35 p.m. Eastern time, when Tyler's dominating. No one's watched Tyler dominate for the U.S. in 2.5 years, and everyone's forgotten. I think he might. I know Pulisic's special. I think at his position, he might be the best in the U.S. And I think if we see him do his thing healthy and like ready to go, everyone's going to come back around on Tyler Adams is the difference for this team. I am so excited if he's healthy. Please.
I didn't know people minds had turned. What, are they crazy?
People forget, and they're like, yeah, Tyler plays at Leipzig, but he plays right wing back sometimes. He's good. But the real excitement is Weston and Pulisic and Gio, and I think that's true. But I think Tyler, I mean, you're talking about the second best team in Germany where he starts already, and I don't think people have watched him dominate a game for 90 minutes in a really long time, and I'm excited for that.
Look how spoiled we are. Look how spoiled we are. You remember those days after Kuva in the next year and a half where we were just like, where the hell are we? Where are we going? Who is even on this team? How are we going to get there? Well, a lot of those questions are getting answered, and there'll be more so this summer. Before I let you go, Mo, we get to the Zack Steffen interview, which is very good, everybody. You should definitely stick around to hear from Zack. End of Nations League. What's going to have you not just satisfied, but truly excited and thrilled for where this team is going and what they can accomplish, not just in the requirement, World Cup qualifying, but maybe even that next step?
To win, excuse me, to hopefully play against Mexico in the final and to win. You know, we saw this team and we went through this process with the Gold Cup where we're trying to be critical. We're challenging this group of players. We're also recognizing that that's like their first proper tournament together under Gregg. And so we're trying to just keep everything in perspective and appreciate and apply context. So I think now that's even up to level, right? And we hope that this rematch happens where they get to play Mexico again. It's a chance to show that you're the best in this region. It's been a long time since we beat Mexico. Not just beat Mexico. Let me take that back. That we beat Mexico in a final when there's been a trophy on the up for grabs, right? So to do that, I think from the outside, of course, we'll be going crazy. But internally, what that does for that group as well is it's that reassurance. It's that added bit of confidence going into qualifying, right? They'll obviously know that there's pressure. I mean, they play at big clubs, so there's pressure in that way as well. This is a different kind of pressure where your whole country is just rocking with you and riding with you, right? And so now you have a chance to galvanize this country again, get us all excited. And to do that, to be hoisting a trophy, this is the first Nations League, you know. So to be celebrating that as the first champions of the Nations League, and by beating Mexico and doing it, come on now, it doesn't get better than that, right?
I see you smiling. I see you just even at the thought. I'm smiling about it. I remember those moments. I remember the way that made me feel. Let's see it again. It all starts very, very soon. We've been waiting a long time for these moments. Switzerland on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Then it goes to the Nations League. Honduras. Then we hope the final against Mexico. Knocking on wood right here. Don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched here. Then back against Costa Rica in a friendly to replicate World Cup qualifying. And then the Gold Cup after that. Mo, big thanks for joining us, man. I know you have a busy life between fatherhood, finishing up your degree, being on every single soccer production possible in this country. I don't know when you sleep. I don't know how much.
I don't, bro. You know that. You know, sleep doesn't happen when you have kids.
I got a headache right now just thinking about all the things that you're juggling mentally. So we'll let you get out of here. We'll get to this Zack Steffen interview. It's an AT&T 5G call to the field. We'll be back on the other side with Jon Arnold to preview all the Nations League opponents. Oh, it's an AT&T 5G call to the field all the way out to Manchester, rainy Manchester, where they're drinking tea, and Zack Steffen is with us. You know him very well. In goal for Man City, winning championships. In goal for the national team. We hope doing the same. Zack, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well, man. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I got to ask you before we get into the deep stuff. Were you a tea drinker, and I'm just guessing what's in your cup? I'm making a guess, educated guess, before you got to England, or is this a recent change in you for your lifestyle?
Oh, are you pointing to this mug?
Yeah, that mug.
No, it's coffee. I'm not a tea drinker.
Okay. I respect that. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Yes.
You win the Prem, bruv. In it, standard.
In it. I love that. In it. Yeah.
Charlie's been waiting 2 weeks just to do that accent.
Yeah, he's had that saved up.
Pretty good.
How's it feel?
It's pretty good. Surreal. That's all I can chalk it up to.
The first yank, bruv.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we knew that it was coming this week, but then for it to happen on Tuesday, I was talking to my friend, and we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. But even when it happened, we were still wow. That's all we said was wow, 100 times.
What was because because it's been coming. You said you knew it was coming. Obviously, you guys start to take the lead in the league, and it's kind of just like a waiting game. Do you guys talk about it? Are you feeling it that whole time, or was it not until Manchester United finally lost?
Yeah, I feel like we didn't feel it until they lost, and we actually were kind of crowned. But I mean, we knew it was coming. It was just a waiting game. But our focus was either winning in Newcastle or, just waiting to see what Manchester United would do. But yeah, just pretty much a waiting game. But then when it happened, it was just like, wow.
Just like, wow. I mean, that's pretty incredible to be talking to an American who just won the Premier League. And you just feel like a little bit nonplussed to me. Is that just what it's like at Man City? You guys like, this is what we do. This is the expectation. We meet the expectation. And here we are. We're going to lift the trophy. And we have Champions League coming up too. So, hey, this is what it's like to be a Man City player.
I mean, that after we won the Carabao Cup, that's what it was like big time. I was like, this is my first title, my first trophy. I don't know how to act. Everybody's just cool and calm and collected, like giving high fives. This is big because it's a Premier League. This is our number one goal. Champions League is obviously massive, but we got to win our league. So everybody's happy. Everybody's really happy. But like you said, we still have one more game to go.
You win the Carabao Cup, Raheem Sterling's eye rolling. He's got to find space for another medal to put on.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah.
Before we get to like the deeper stuff with Man City, with the Champions League, and of course facing an American in the final is amazing for everybody here, and I'm sure for you and Christian as well, obviously. What was it like to be the guy in the pipes for that championship? I mean, it is your first. And to have that opportunity to do it with a club like Manchester City, what sort of feelings come out of that for you? I mean, that's a long build-up in your career to get to this amazing point.
No, it was obviously a really good feeling, especially after the whole semifinal against Chelsea in the FA Cup. To go back to Wembley that next week and be able to lift the trophy. It was a really proud moment for myself and my family and my friends.
Where's the medal go? Does it get displayed? Does it get...
I need to get a little trophy cabinet. Right now it's in like my jersey shelf. So I need to present that somehow.
So obviously COVID changes everything. What was the first phone call? Who's on FaceTime over the course of the day after a title?
My family and my friends, they were out in Westchester at the bars watching it. So
nice.
They were feeling good so I FaceTimed them and for a couple hours that night once I got home.
A lot of Man City bars now in PA, right?
As they should be. I mean,
I know.
Getting
Chelsea,
it done.
Chelsea and City.
So can you explain to everybody what it's like to work with a Pep Guardiola? Because it seems to me that he has these, for some players, they seem unfair expectations because he's always pushing you. He's pushing the system. But in particular, what's that relationship been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because he's been with this group for 4 or 5 years now. They know each other very well. I'm sure in the first 2 years, 3 seasons, he was a lot more. I've heard that he was a lot more demanding. They did a lot more video. He was a lot more detailed. Now he's still detailed, obviously, in the way we want to play, but he's relaxed a little bit, and he trusts his players. He just gives us the guidelines and how the other teams play. And then it's also different for me because I'm a goalkeeper. So I'm with the goalkeepers.
You're a little weird. Yeah.
Hey, watch it. So I see him for we're with the goalkeepers for 30, 45 minutes beginning of the training, and then we'll go into tactics for a little bit and then play a game. So I really only get to really see and kind of hear him in the tactic parts, and then in the meetings. But I mean, he's so passionate for keeping the ball. He hates when we lose the ball and the other team has the ball. He hates it. He hates defending. So yeah, he wants to play. Passionate football where we keep the ball and we play with a purpose, and each pass and each movement is with the purpose of going to their goal and putting it in the back of the net.
You mentioned he's worked with a lot of these people for a few years. Coming in new to an established group, what did it feel like? How were you welcomed in? How do you kind of break into that socially and as a player?
Yeah, the guys were, again, it was weird and tough because we didn't have a preseason. We trained for like 10 days and then we were into our first game at Wolves. But the guys were great. I mean, we have a really good group of guys that are, that push each other, that care about each other, that care about winning and doing it with style. So they were great. The goalkeepers were great with welcoming me in and making me feel settled as quickly as possible.
How is a culture like Man City different than the ones that you've been in the past? And you've been sort of in a wide gamut of different situations. Like when you walk in, do you feel, okay, this is different and this is how it's different? There's just a different thing in the air. There's a different expectation. There's a different quality. Like what is that culture like? How would you describe it?
I would say it's definitely a family. And it's like, for me, the utmost professional like club that I've been at, obviously. They take care of you, like the player care team takes care of you, the chefs take care of you, the trainer, the physios take care of you, so that all you have to worry about is on the field stuff. And they take care of your family, your friends, your girlfriends, whatever, off the field, so that all you have to do is worry about working hard and executing your role on the field.
Well, when you've gotten the opportunity, you've executed and you've performed. Can you talk about your growth as a goalkeeper? You know, not being the quote unquote starter, but when you have played, you've taken care of business.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would chalk that up to obviously being at this club and playing with these players day in and day out. So you're obviously going to grow. It's either you're going to grow or you're going to get kicked out really soon, real soon. And then our goalkeeper coach, I mean, Eddie's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And then our goalkeeper coach is, I don't know really how other goalkeeper coaches work, but he's just so detailed and just the little techniques all over my game, so that when I go into games, I feel confident and yeah, they're just, yeah, he's very caring and obviously pushes me on the field, and then he cares about how I'm doing off the field, because this year was definitely tough with COVID.
You mentioned Pep hates to defend, wants to be in possession all the time. How much better have your feet gotten? And what position are you ready to play in the field at an MLS level already? My assumption.
Jeez. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. Maybe next season. But no, I think it's just more about, I mean, we just train so much here so that your technique's going to get better just by training that much more for a longer season than I did in MLS. But I think it's really just about like not forcing it with the ball, just playing simple. And I mean, the players that I have around me are world class. So I give them the ball. They're going to get out of a lot of situations. So yeah, I would just say it's really just, I feel like before I would try and force stuff and I'd be overthinking. And now it's just like, hey, just be calm on the ball. You got a little bit more time than you actually think. And then it's just combined with training more and focusing on technique, rather than just getting the ball to where I want it to be.
You see training clips all the time. We all do. You know, you're going around, you see Neymar doing stupid stuff, or like my favorite's Marcelo. That's who I want to watch. Just be in training, being ridiculous. Who in your trainings make you, you're in these little small-sided games, you're in games, you're just like, oh my God, man, like that, how and why did you make that look so easy and effortless?
I mean, Phil Foden's just glides through players, and yeah, the stuff, his turns and tricks and finishing ability is world class. And then you got Kevin that just hits a ball with such ease and sees these passes with such ease. It's that's that Riyad Mahrez, his technique is insane. He's just so gifted technically. Gundo's been balling this year. He's been just class, and a pleasure to watch and play with.
Why don't you just name every player in the roster?
I know. It's hard. I know.
Oh my God, must be nice. Yeah, it must be nice. Like
the first couple of months when I got here, I just found everybody was laughing at me because I'd just be like, oh my gosh, like the entire training, and everybody would just be like, oh, you're like a commentator back there.
I guess my question for you is, you're 26 years old. You want to be playing every match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Ederson is 27. You're a goalkeeper looking to get into your prime. At what moment, and you're in an unbelievable situation, like you said, you're playing against all these players every day, but you also want to be playing 90 minutes in matches every day.
Sure.
At what point do you say, you know what, I got to beat you out, or I gotta be playing, I got to take a loan? How does that work? And what's your mindset heading into this kind of situation?
Yeah, actually, that's what my agent and I are having conversations about. Obviously, I want to be playing week in and week out, and that's how you really grow your game as a goalkeeper. But I feel like this year, and like you said, I'm in an unbelievable position, and I'm at a club where I've definitely gotten better this year, and I've to where it's continued my hunger and my passion for the game. So I want to continue to grow, obviously. And I think I can do that at this club for another season. I feel like I just got my feet wet. So now I'm like really, really ready to push and get better. And then I think it'll be time to move on.
When did you feel like I belong, like at Man City? You're saying that first couple of months, I don't know how. I mean, it is an adaptation process to come into a club that size with these sorts of players, with Pep. What was the moment where you were just like, okay, I'm comfortable. Like this feels right. I'm able to be myself. I'm able to really just sort of like feel like part of the group and feel like I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I came into the club being hurt since January. So I trained maybe like 2 weeks, and then I tore my MCL again. So, I came here in July to train with the keeper coaches for a month. And that was really good for just getting me ready for the season. So it definitely took me some time to get up to speed and find my rhythm again. Just because it was so long since I trained, and then these high caliber players that I'm training with every day. But I mean, it's in training. I mean, after probably 2 or 3 months, I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more settled in that stuff. But I feel like it wasn't until I kind of got those games when we played Chelsea, when we played Man United and Arsenal, that I was like, okay, I can compete at this level. But this is just a start.
You know, with Charlie mentioned, like, okay, if it's not a full-time job after next year, you start to look at other things. As a guy who's playing off and on at Man City, what are other things? Like what's on that level? Where do you think about?
In terms of like finding a starting role?
Yeah, like where can you go from there?
I mean, it's tough because Man City is one of the best clubs in the world. I'm number 2, and I'm getting better, and I'm learning from all these players and training with all these players. I'm under one of the best coaches in the world ever, and the goalie coaches are amazing. So I'm in a really, really good position. Besides just not playing week in and week out. When I don't have an answer to that really.
It's like you could literally go anywhere. It's like wherever you want.
Tell us you're coming back to Columbus, right?
Not just yet. I think I'd like to stay in England though.
Yeah. I was going to say, Is it still the same case? I know we talked about it on the US Soccer podcast where Raheem Sterling bangs this shot. You just spring, get it with your fingertips, and everyone's like, oh, damn, this American can play. Have you had more moments like that in training?
Oh yeah. Now I'm feeling quick. I'm feeling good.
Okay.
My body's feeling healthy. So now I'm still getting banged on, but but no, I'm up to speed, and now I feel like I'm training really well, and yeah, so I'm good.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can we ask now? So you're in England. It's becoming a bit more comfortable for Americans to get over there. You're going to play against Christian Pulisic. What's the vibes about Americans in England? How often do you see other players? What's the social setup like?
Yeah, well, with Christian being in London, it's tough because of how, and playing with Chelsea, he and I play so many games, and we get like one day off a week, sometimes none. So we haven't really been able to chill. We chilled back in September when our national team camp was canceled because of COVID. But since then, I've only seen him when we play, and we've talked after the games. But then Daryl Dike just came down this past weekend for a couple of days because he's in Barnsley, which is an hour and 15 minutes away, which was really cool to talk with him and see really what he was about and his mentality and just get to know him.
This is a Daryl
really
Dike podcast.
Yeah, we're big Daryl Dike
huge Daryl fans.
Stands.
Yeah, I mean, he's a
Daryl.
beast. He's a beast, and he's only 20. It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm really hoping and praying that he can get over here permanently.
What does it mean to have two Americans going head to head in a Champions League final? Like, that feels like, for a lot of us that have followed and cared about this game for a long time and have been through periods with Americans abroad where this just wasn't even in the realm of possibility. You couldn't even have imagined something like this. Even now, it's hard to imagine, and it's real. Like that is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and we're both from PA. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think we're not going to fully understand and grasp the situation until maybe the summer or next season or in a couple of seasons, because we're in it, and that's our goal, is to go to these finals and win these finals and lift these trophies. But from the outside looking in, I can imagine that it's just insane.
Can I ask, and I know you've done it before, you've been there now, but I still got to ask the question. When you hear the Champions League song, the anthem, when you're on the field, when you're on the sideline, whatever it is, like, how does that hit?
It's chills. It's amazing.
It's chills for me, and I'm not even there.
I know. Exactly. I know. Oh, yeah. It's so cool. It's, I just remember all those times that I was sitting on the couch with my dad watching these games, and now I'm sitting on the bench. But
You're there. You're there. I'm looking now ahead to the U.S. Women's National Team in Nations League, the semifinals. I'm pumped. We haven't seen this group together too often. My fingers are crossed. Everyone's going to come in healthy. What do you need to build on to make sure that you're lifting the trophy at the end of the tournament?
Yeah, I think Gregg has a certain style that he wants to play, and we definitely, us players, we believe in that style, and we want to play that same style. We want to keep the ball. It's very much like City. We want to keep the ball and play with a purpose and dominate teams. But it's really just kind of finding that rhythm and finding that brotherhood on the field, because we definitely have that brotherhood off the field. We're a very close group and great bond within the team. It's just finding that on the field. That on the field connection. And that comes with time, that comes with these games and experiences, but I mean, we got to find it pretty soon.
Brotherhood off the field. Who's the loud ones? Who's the one leading the group?
I would say that's tough. I mean, we got, myself, we got Weston, McKinney, big character, as you guys know. We got Christian, Tyler Adams,
who's the funniest?
I don't want to get fill his head, but I mean, Weston's just a clown. To where sometimes he's a little too much, to where we're like, all right, Wes, we got to train, bro. We like relax. We got to focus a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Wes is a clown. I would say he's probably the funniest. Yeah,
that's our title for the show, so he's gonna know immediately.
Weston is a clown.
No.
right, there's been some talk about goalkeeper over the years and sort of a transition from what were, whether it be Tim Howard or this sort of era of guys that were honestly at like a level that you're at now. Maybe you're above that level. When you think Zack Steffen, #1 goalkeeper for the U.S., are you just like, boom, that's my job, that's me, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to lead this team through Nations League, World Cup qualifying, into a World Cup?
Into 2026.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, that's what I believe in. Yeah, that's what I believe in. And I try to go into these camps and these games with the national team and lead and be that voice of the team. And that's what I feel, and that's what I'm continuing to work on. And I want to solidify that even more, with each camp and each game.
Who's your biggest influences as a goalkeeper? I mean, I think for American goalkeepers, it's always an interesting question. But whether it be players you watch, players who have influenced you personally, coaches, like who are sort of the Mount Rushmore of guys that helped Zack Steffen be Zack Steffen?
Yeah, I mean, growing up was definitely Tim and seeing Brad Friedel and Casey Keller and Brad Guzan play over here. Definitely those guys. But like Gigi Buffon and I loved Iker Casillas. He was like a cat in goal. But now I would say
I nearly banged on him.
You don't talk, Charlie. You don't talk about the almost.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Man. Have respect. There's a Premier League champion in here, Charlie. Embarrass yourself.
Yeah, standard in it.
In it. But now I would say Eddie. He's just him and Ter Stegen. I mean, with their feet, and then Eddie with just his presence in goal and shot stopping ability and just all around goalkeeping aspects.
I'm interested how you've been able to kind of cultivate what you do off the field. You're rocking more than an athlete. Mm-hmm. You have voice now. I think that's kind of empowered you as well. Has that helped your performances, knowing that, man, I have my mind focused while I'm on the pitch, but also off the field, I know I'm giving back in a huge way.
Yeah, I would say, voice now and definitely has made me a better person and player. It's almost like I was saying this to somebody the other day. Obviously, I have stuff to lose with soccer just alone, but now I feel like I have something else to lose. So it's just making me work harder and trying to build my platform so that I can give back to the next generation of minority children that are disadvantaged even more.
Tell people more about what you're doing, man. Because if they don't know, you got the platform right here. Just put it out to them.
Yeah. So Voice Now. I mean, it's I came up with it after the killing of George Floyd last year, and I knew I wanted to give back. I have a big heart. It's what my mom really ingrained in me and my siblings. So I believe that everybody has a platform, no matter how big or small. So we know there's a lot of problems in this world, and right now in America, it's the minorities are really struggling, especially right now, but ever since America was founded. So we just want to help give back to the next generation of kids, minority kids in America. And then we have a big community of athletes, professional athletes and collegiate athletes that want to help give back to those types of communities. So we're trying to raise money and get into those communities and build relationships and have camps once COVID's kind of lessened a little bit. We want to get into those communities and just give back and create a relationship that I didn't really have. Not that I grew up pretty privileged, but I go back and I think like how cool it would have been to have some professional athletes kind of come to trainings or kind of have these camps in my community and tell their stories and just kind of create a relationship with these kids that will kind of give them the passion and the motivation and the hope that they can make it out of their disadvantaged communities and situations.
We'll put that on Twitter for people to see the information on your
Thank you, bro.
Your stuff.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, what do you think it means when you step out for the national team, for Nations League, whatever it is, these big games, and the team is now made of people from all those backgrounds? Like, what does it represent? What does it state? do you ever think about it when you're walking on the field with the other 10 guys behind you?
Yeah, man. I mean, soccer's always been a diverse sport. I mean, every team you're on, you kind of, you definitely had kids from all different backgrounds and ethnicities. And so for us, it's very easy to not have hatred or bias against other ethnicities. I guess, yeah, racism against other ethnicities. So, and now the national team is very much, I mean, I think last camp we had like 15 out of like the 25 guys, and they were, they were black. So it was really, it's really cool. And it's, I mean, obviously it's an honor to walk out on the field with those guys, and to be able to make statements that we're standing with all of humanity.
You see it on the back of the shirts. You see it represented in yourselves. Like you said, the brotherhood off the field, and you're trying to build that on the field. I think a lot about the ceiling for this group, because we all can't help but get excited about all of you guys, what you're doing with your clubs, what you can do with your national team. And of course, this last World Cup cycle was not what anybody wanted it. And then I think back to what Jurgen Klinsmann said ahead of 2014, and he made a big splash because he said this team can't win it. I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like somebody who say that would be out of their gourd at this point. Maybe they might have been right about that one. I was still pissed off about it back in like 2013, 14, but that is what it is. What is the ceiling for this group? Like, what do you think this group can accomplish? You have these massive opportunities in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, our first goal is to change the way the world views American soccer. And then our second goal is to obviously qualify for the next World Cup, but then we want to lift trophies. I mean, we believe that if your goal isn't to go there and win these types of tournaments and stuff, then why are you doing what you're doing? And what's the point? So our goal is to lift these trophies, as many trophies as we can, and win as many games as we can. Win the World Cup. That's our goal.
Change that perception. You're already on the way. And U.S. men's national team's never been a passenger. We're not passengers. We're trying to go out to win.
Not passengers.
No.
Yeah, we like to be first.
What a way to end this.
This is why they played, and we're like, yeah, that's cool.
Oh, man. Zach, thank you so much for joining us, man. Go check out More Than an Athlete and Voice Now. Doing great work there. Obviously, incredible work in your career, and that's going to go on for a long time. Can't wait to see you in Nations League. Glad to see you don't have the Brad Friedel accent picked up already. So
no. and the curls are looking nice. I don't know what you're doing there, but Man City.
Coconut oil.
Okay.
Coconut oil.
Thanks. What's your best? Play your best, man. Good luck in the CL final. Good luck with everything going forward. We appreciate you.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
From Zack Steffen to the king of Concacaf, Jon Arnold. Nice. We're getting Concacaf, John, and we're paying for the newsletter, baby. You're in a coffee shop. You've got the hair of a hipster. We love you for it. Tell people about the newsletter update, and then we're going to get to Honduras, Mexico, and Costa Rica.
That's right. I really wanted to give people a place to be able to have even more of Get Concacaf. So I started a paid option. It'll come out every Monday. It's 2 segments, the Mexico national team segment or Liga MX, whatever it is, Mexico Monday. We know it's a well-watched league. We know that there's a lot of interplay with Concacaf Champions League, with Leagues Cup. Now you can be updated every week. And if you're not into Mexico, that's fine. I get that. I've been there. I also have the Conca catch-up each week, which will just be, hey, this is crazy, this is going on. Like this week, it's the Guatemalan final. I don't know if you guys were up on this, but it was 4-0 in the first leg, 5-0 in the second leg, and then 2 stoppage time goals. The other team wins. It's a first ever title. You can check it out on Get Concacaf. And that Monday edition will be $5 a month or $50 for the year. And then the rest of the newsletter that everyone's come to know and love is still free. I get it. Everyone's being asked to be paid for a lot these days. Everyone's paying for a lot these days. So it's still out there, and those great stories will still get to everybody. So I do hope people will pay. I do hope people will support, but that's the update. That's the latest. You can now get Concacaf Premium.
You've got 3 paying subscribers now, and myself, Dave, and then in the background somewhere, Anders. This is the time to do it. When you have Gold Cup, Nations League, World Cup qualifying coming, this is the time to get Concacaf. And if I don't get a Concacaf pun in every single paid newsletter, Conca ketchup, I'm into that. I like that a lot. I'm gonna be really disappointed, John. All right, we have two experts on the region here. We know Dave, we know John, we know they know all of this back to front. I'm gonna just step back. I'm gonna let you guys riff first on Honduras, the U.S. opponent in this Nations League semifinal. We've kind of portrayed them as more of a counterattacking team, and that's what we saw certainly in Olympic qualifying. John, how would you describe Honduras in their current state and what they're looking to be in Nations League and beyond?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of quote unquote same old Concacaf or same old Honduras, right? That we've seen in Concacaf before. Yeah, I think that some of the tropes can get a little old with Honduras, but at the same time, it's a team where I think their strength is in central midfield and their strength is somewhat at the back. Although you look at their center backs and like Minor Figueroa, a guy who MLS fans will know and love, is still a pretty critical piece of this team. So, I think that there's some problems there, right? So I do think it's kind of your traditional Honduran team. You got one or two forwards. Albert Elise, of course, is in the mix, a guy who can be dangerous. But this is certainly a Honduras team that I don't think is going to be trying to do anything too crazy tactically. Coito's kept them pretty drilled, pretty regimented, pretty retracted, pretty safe, right? It is a traditional Honduras team. But look, we've seen that have success before. So it's something that the U.S. is going to have to be ready for. They're not my favorites to win the Nations League, I'll say that. But, Gus, I don't know how you see them, but I really think it's a team that we know the faces, especially if you've been watching MLS for a long time. And if you've seen Honduras before, there probably aren't going to be that many surprises.
Yeah, you mentioned the older faces at the back. I think Daniel Maldonado is the one guy who's ready to take over. He's out injured. So that's a big loss coming to this tournament for that team. And then I just think for Honduras, for maybe fans in the U.S. who don't watch them that often, it's not the team that, should have qualified in 2010, did qualify in 2014, or maybe I got that wrong, did qualify in 2010. I always forget. It's not that strength, but they're also better than they were the last 3 years. Like this younger generation has finally pushed through. So I'm obviously Albert Elise, a star. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Rubio. I think he can be a special player on the wing. Rigoberto Rivas, we saw for a little bit in Olympic qualifying as well. Another shifty winger who likes to connect, who can have some creative moments. So as John said, I think this is a team that's physically very strong. They're not going to be easy to break down. I think there's more quality in the attack than we've seen for them over the last 3 or 4 years to help Elise. And we don't talk about Lozano that much, as there aren't that many strikers that start at that level in CONCACAF, and he's been doing it for a few years now.
No, absolutely. I think we saw Olympia in their semifinal run in the 2020 Champions League. A lot of those guys were in that Sub-23 team, the qualification team, and also are on this squad. You look at like Edwin Rodriguez, another name who, I think people got to know a little bit during the CCL, during Olympics. Yeah, absolutely. It is a team that is growing in quality, but probably not taking the leaps and bounds necessary. That's fine. I think, this is a team that I think during World Cup qualification will have, every bit of a chance to qualify. But especially in this sort of format where you show up, you play one game, and if you lose, you're not moving on. It could be difficult, I think, for them to get up to speed. But I totally agree with the assessment that, yeah, their attack is better. And, Choco Lozano, Rivas, like these are guys who are playing not at the highest level in Europe like the U.S. can boast, but at decent levels in Europe and somewhat regularly, as the case may be.
I'm in heaven right now. I'm basically in a coffee shop talking about the Honduran national team in CONCACAF. It can't get any better than this for me. Costa Rica, we know will play. We don't know if we'll play in the third place or the final or whatever it may be, but we know there's a friendly coming up after these two games. Get us started here, Dave, on the Ticos. I mean, we go back to 2014, and that was as good as it felt it could get, and that was a veteran squad. Where are they now?
So I'm actually going to push to John on this because that's my question. Like, this is a group where a lot of the old faces are still around. It doesn't feel like the next generation has cycled through, but it's also a group that I never want to play. You're right. No one in CONCACAF ever wants to play. What's your temperature, John, on where this side stands right now in the region?
Yeah, I actually had the chance to talk to Brian Ruiz, obviously a member of that golden generation, that 2014 team, even earlier than that, a couple weeks ago. And we talked about the fact that he's trying to foster this generational change. but yet still feels the responsibility. He and some of the other members of that generation feel the responsibility to keep playing for the national team, keep trying to qualify for Qatar, which, as he said, kind of his ultimate goal. He wants to make it there, see how well they can do, and then retire is his plan. Obviously, things don't always go to plan in CONCACAF or anywhere. So I think even some of the leaders of this team are conscious of the fact that maybe this change needs to be accelerated a bit. They have some really bright young players. Some of them are in this roster, but some of them are not. You look at a lot of the kind of attacking talent, Manfred Valde, Jürgens Montenegro. These are guys who, for one reason or another, are not going to be guys that they can rely on in this specific tournament. Maybe we see them in Gold Cup. Maybe we see them in we'll certainly see them in qualification. But right now you're looking at a team that up top still is looking at Randall Leal, great player. Joel Campbell, great player, very dangerous. But then at the 9, some question marks there where I think some of those younger players need to come in. So I definitely think that not only is Costa Rica a team that's in transition that needs to have that next generation show up, they're a team that's well aware of that fact. So it could be difficult for Costa Rica this time around, especially, again, I think this is a format where you don't get that chance to have the team built, et cetera, because it's kind of, once the ball starts rolling, it's do or die. Maybe the experience actually comes in positive there. They know each other well. If you put out an older group on the field, maybe they have some success. But I do think it's a team where those young faces that we think are coming need to show up sooner rather than later in World Cup qualification. Maybe the old group can get it done in Nations League, but I think it's going to be a tough ask.
John mentioned the 2 center forwards, which those are the big prospects. Ugalde already in Europe at 18. They're not here at this competition. And then you look at this team, and for people who watch MLS, it's Randall Leal, it's Luis Diaz, it's guys who play in this league week in and week out that you see that while Randall Leal's had a good season, aren't at the peak of this league. And so in the past where it's been the opposite, right? Kendall Waston was performing at a high level. He was a Costa Rican. Right now it feels like there's a little bit of a loss in this group, as John said. So what will be interesting is with so many players that play in Costa Rica and MLS, if they also go to Gold Cup, you might have about 6 or 7 weeks where this group can be together. And I think, again, no one ever wants to go to Costa Rica. No one wants to play them in World Cup qualifying. I think they'll get there in September and October. But right now, this is the biggest question mark to me in this Nations League final is what is this team and what do they want to show? Because talk about Brian Ruiz. He's 35? He's still the captain. Duarte's still getting called in. Waston. Calvo's like the only quote unquote in his prime defender at that position at center back. Ronald Malterita, who has not had a good start to MLS, is probably going to start for this team as well. So there's a lot of question marks, and no Keylor Navas, obviously, for this tournament. There's a lot of question marks across this team. There's still a bunch of talent, but not as exciting as it's been maybe the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, it's buzzing in there, by the way.
No
People are
Keylor
really
Navas.
loving the Costa Rica conversation. I can hear it in the coffee shop. John, they're just loving this.
Everyone's been asking for this for a long time. Can you sit in the corner and yell about no Keylor Navas because he's injured? Yes, I can. Obviously, that's a key. Esteban Alvarado, a perfectly serviceable goalkeeper with European experience, but he's not Navas back there. So that's another thing to watch for the Ticos.
Last one here before we get to the mailbag, guys. El Tri, that's what we talked to Mo about. That's what looms in the final, or at least we expect. As you said, John, things don't always go to plan. Where is Tata's team right now? How would you sort of measure them on the rubric, so to speak, of Mexico teams of the past and in comparison to the U.S.?
I think it's a really strong team. It's better than the team that won the Gold Cup a couple years ago, partly just because they've had the time together. But the biggest question, no doubt, is no center forward. We have Raul Jimenez with his head injury. Thankfully, it sounds like he's going to get back to playing soccer. Thankfully, it sounds like he's going to go back to living a normal life. He's not going to be playing this summer. So you have a center forward situation where who do they plug in there? None of the options are exciting. None of the options are players who you think, ooh, yeah, that guy's going to cause us problems. Henry Martin, if he starts the game, the Club America forward, who's not really even first choice with Las Águilas. I don't know. I just think that's the biggest question for Mexico and makes it even more puzzling that Chicharito wasn't included in this provisional roster. And obviously, because he's not on the provisional, can't be included in the main roster. He's the kind of player who, if you put him between Chucky Lozano and Tecatito Corona, or even Uriel Antuna, the former Galaxy player who's now standing out with Chivas, it's a much more dangerous team. but they don't have that. So you're looking at I think, kind of second choice options at the 9, and that's the big question. Mexico's still, I think, the most talented team, the deepest team, and comparing this to past Mexico teams, I think, like I said, it's probably the best team of the last 3-4 years. But there's an enormous question mark at number 9.
Yeah, it's definitely the best backline in the region and coming into this competition. But Raul Jimenez is the best player on this team. And as you said, not that he won't be available this summer, you just can't be sure what he's going to be going. We just have no idea how he gets out of this. And that is such a positional question mark. Alan Pulido might get starts going forward over the course of this summer because it's him or Henry Martin. JJ Macias didn't have the tournament that we thought he would for Chivas. So there's massive question marks. I think this is a dangerous moment for Mexico because I think there's expectations, as there always will be. And for Tata, he wants to get his group together. He wants to play. But if they slip up, which is realistic, because again, you don't have your best player, you don't have that center forward, that striker, it could be a little bit hairy going into World Cup qualifying if it's not the summer that they expect.
We will preview all of these teams in much more depth as the Nation League gets here and these matchups are set. But I heard that buzzer in the background from John. We are only paying $5 a month for John. So, I mean, at that point, he was like, this is it. My time is up. That's it. Get Concacaf. Go check out the newsletter. There is a free version that you can get, as I said, for free. There is also a premium version that you can pay for that I will be paying for, and I'm sure Dave and Anders will as well, and many more of you out there to stay up to date on every single thing, every nook and cranny that's going on in this wonderful region of ours. John, we appreciate you, man. Get back to work. You know, I know you got a list about 50 things long, so we appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, guys. You can come have a coffee with me anytime.
Speaking of cups of coffee, that's how much it costs a month to subscribe to the premium version of Get Concacaf. I'm here to stand for it because I love the product. When I get that in my inbox, when I get in my inbox, I'm jacked. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I know it's going to be unique. I know it's going to be well reported. And I know that John has his tentacles in every single part of this region. So it's wonderful.
So I think you probably, like me, subscribe to a ton of Mailbag. You know, it's probably the only one I do actually read every single one. Because as you said, it's not like, oh, here's the next thing about the NBA. It's like, here's this guy in Suriname doing this thing you find really interesting. Or as you said, with this tournament coming up, or all of it in World Cup qualifying, it's like, how can you get a pulse of Honduras, Costa Rica, Jamaica with all these dual nationals coming over, Curacao. So there's a lot to know, and he does the best job.
And you know he's going to talk to the people involved as well. And there's no better way that when you're talking about the Gold Cup or Concacaf, the U.S. national team, or whatever it may be with your friends, to seem like the smartest one in the group than to be subscribed to Get Concacaf. All right. And by the way, the kickoff email is the other one that I always really think J. Sam Jones does a great job with that as well. So let's get to the mailbag 401-206-0MLS. There's a lot more Club and Country presented by Continental Tire to come this summer because there's so much to talk about. Here's one from Paul. Last year when the original U.S. men's national team schedule had the Nations League as the last official games before World Cup qualifying, our performance, especially in the semifinal, was going to be our litmus test. Is that still the case now that we'll have Gold Cup in between, although the A-team likely won't play in the latter? I actually think the U.S. is like a blessing in some ways that this all got delayed back because it gives Gregg Berhalter an opportunity to stack right on top of World Cup qualifying and kind of build it all out. This, as he said, and as we said, a test run. Like an opportunity that probably wouldn't have been there last year because of health and still fitness, form. Those are issues remaining. We talked about those with Mo Adu. But I think this is a great time for this to come, to have sort of a practice run through, to get those guys rest, and then to get back in their preseasons and then be ready to go for World Cup qualifying, which is what really matters. So I think this is a litmus test. I think for Gregg, I think for the players, I think for the other teams in the region as well. It's not just the U.S. that's feeling that way because everybody has dealt with COVID and it's been different in every single country. So I'm excited for it because I think that's the way we should think about it. And that's the way Gregg Berhalter, I know, is thinking about it. If you listen to, and I don't know if you did, Dave, but I just got done with it. Bobby Warshaw's wonderful interview with Gregg Berhalter on the U.S. National Team Podcast Network. Gregg said, how should fans judge us at the end of this? He said, if we win or not. He's like, we're past the point of experimentation and did this work and how do you feel about pressing and is the system coming together? It's win time. It's a year and a half that this group, Gregg and all the players and the federation are going to be judged on. You got to win. So yes, this is a litmus test. That's a long-winded way of saying that. The last one here from Nick. Could Miles Robinson be in line for some time with Long's injuries? Looked closer to 2019 Robinson instead of 2021 Robinson, and I think he meant 2020 Robinson there, and it's helped Atlanta out a lot. Yeah, I think, look, Miles is in position, right? He's right there. Gregg says he's going to be in the Gold Cup. That's his opportunity. It's not
Yeah.
in the Nations League. It's in the Gold Cup. It sounds like he'll probably be paired with Walker Zimmerman, which is an interesting pairing. But this is it. Like, as he said with everybody else, you get your opportunities, and we're not at a point where it's like, okay, well, you can come back from those. Like, yeah, you can, but the games are going to mean so much that Gregg's going to have to make really tough decisions. And if he doesn't perform in the Gold Cup, the question will kind of be answered.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the center back position that there's potential out there for someone to take it. We talked about it with Mo, so I think Miles goes right in that list. I'm pretty high on Walker Zimmerman as a partner to John Anthony Brooks, and that's one of the things Mo kept talking about was give and take and that compatibility. I don't think Walker Zimmerman is one of the 2 best center backs overall in the U.S. pool, but I think he does exactly what John Anthony Brooks wants his partner to do, and he does it at right center back. So it'll be interesting, as you said, at Gold Cup, because him and Miles both play right center back, but you never know.
Here's the last one. Another Nick. Lots of Nicks here. Who's the biggest national team snub of all time, and why is it Ike Opara?
So it's not Ike, because Ike actually did get called up in 2018, but obviously didn't have the career he wanted. Hard to go through this because most people have been in a January camp at a minimum. So most people have gotten calls. The ones that came to mind in the past, and I think whenever someone says snub or underrated, I always just go fullback, were Justin Morrow and Stephen Beitashour, who obviously then went and played for Iran. But current one, and I'm starting to, I got to beat this drum because we haven't even said it once. Did you vote for Ryan Hollingshead for MLS Best 11 last year?
I believe that I did, yes.
And he's a left back, which is our position of biggest need, just turned 30, and he has never gotten a look at a national team level. He needs to be in a Gold Cup conversation. He's already better today than Sam Vines and George Bello, and I understand the scalability of them getting better and moving to Europe. I'm fine with that. But it's a position of need. He has to get an opportunity. So that's my new one. Ryan Hollingshead for USMNT, banging that drum, driving that train.
I like that. I didn't know where you were going to go with this. You said you had a good answer, and I think it's a really good answer. Position of need in his prime. Maybe you can slot him right in. Can play in possession. Can play a little bit differently as well. It
Flexible.
seems like he can do just about everything. He can play right back if you needed him.
Exactly.
Not that the U.S. necessarily needs that. All right, that's it for Club and Country, driven by Continental Tire. Big thanks to everybody who joined us on this show, whether it's Moadu off the top, Zack Steffen, Charlie Davies, Jon Arnold. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Nations League coming up, Friendly coming up. We'll cover it on Extra Time. Remember, Monday and Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. We'll be back on Thursday with Charlie to preview the weekend. Hope you're having a great week, everybody. See you then. So you made it through and even enjoyed more than an hour of MLS talk with Extra Time driven by Continental Tire. That means that you should go subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to them, and you should also check out more Extra Time on the MLS YouTube channel. If I can point right there, click right there, and subscribe to the MLS channel right here. Have a great day, folks.